Hello, it's Steve Mills back on my results podcast and also on YouTube. It's great to be able to sort of do it once and gain from things twice. I think that's a real important thing to think about when you're considering marketing. How could you use something more than once? So, for example, I could write a blog post, I could turn it into a video, I could separate it into smaller chunks and post it out on social media. I could use it on email marketing. Perhaps I could even set up some advertising, driving traffic to a landing page with a call to action on the end of it. And that, I believe, is one of the things that people often don't do with their marketing. They don't maximize the effect of that marketing. I see people all the time sort of, doing a blog and then going, well, I've done my blog. It's there. It's on my website. Trouble is, nobody's looking at it, and that's really important. However, that's not why I'm here today. That's not what I'm talking about. Today, I want to talk to you about something called my results success plan. Now, you may think, oh, yeah, I've heard of loads of different success plans, and, I don't know how you feel about them, but, not all of them work all the time, do they? Let's put it that way. And this is no secret, it's no mystical idea that, some guru or perhaps even me came up with a little while ago. It's just a simple list of, I think there are eight different things that I'm going to suggest will help to make you and importantly your business more successful. That's as technical as it gets. Now, before I carry on, welcome to my podcast. This is the first time you've been here, thank you for doing so. If you've been back before, then that's good, and keep coming back. Make sure either way that you subscribe to my podcast, subscribe to my YouTube channel, and so on. I'm full of giving valuable education. This is what it's all about. It's about educating people and helping them in a time in marketing where it's never been more complicated. When I started out, I started out writing sales letters, printing them out, sticking that piece of paper in an envelope, and doing that 1,000 times to get 20 people to attend an event. These days, heaven knows how many different, it's like how many different types of ice cream are there? When I was a boy, it was chocolate, vanilla, or strawberry. Now, Haagen-Dazs came along, then Ben and Jerry's, and 1,000 more. We got so much choice in almost anything and everything. And that couldn't be more than it is in the world of marketing. But let's just get back to this idea of the results success plan. Okay, so I'm going to go through the 8 points with you, tell you a little bit about them. I'll try and make it as quick as I can because I don't want to, take too much of your time today. So number one is to know what you want. Really simple, really obvious, and 99% of business people that I speak to have no clue, or they've got a vague clue. They say, well, I want to grow my business, Steve. Yeah, but how much? Do you want world domination? Do you want to increase from 100 grand to 200 grand? Because that's going to take a different plan, depending on which one of those two things you want. And I really do think that it's so important to be specific about what you want. If you're just too general, well, I'd like to lose some weight. I'd like to grow sales. I'd like to reduce my costs. No, I want to reduce my costs by 25% by the end of this month. That's much more specific. That's like says, right, I got to do something. I got to do it now because that's what's going to get results. So guess what's next? Plan what you're going to do to achieve what you want. Because a lot of people have, maybe a loose idea of what they want. I want an Aston Martin. I've always wanted an Aston Martin. I've not got one yet, but one day I'm definitely going to have one. Mark my words, I will get one. In fact, not one day, because one day never happens, does it? I'm going to commit to something now. What do I want? I want an Aston Martin. When am I going to have it? I'm going to have it by the end of 2026, which means I've got about, what, 17 months to get my Aston Martin. Okay, so that's what I want. That's a commitment. So I want you to hold me to it. Phone me up or email me or something at the end of 2026 and let's see if I've got it. I really hope I have. So anyway, back to the plan. What are you going to do to achieve what you want? If that's about growing your business, again, is it to grow from 100 to 200 or from half a million to 3 million in the next 3 years? What do you want and what is your plan? Um, I'd say get it down on paper, or use a CRM system. I'm a massive believer in that. Get your plan down in a system, perhaps a project management system. I strongly recommend doing that. We use a system called 90.io, I think it is. So, go and use that and see what you can do with that. Number three, measure your results. Because if you're working away doing stuff and you're not measuring, then how do you know it's getting you closer to where you want to be? The truth is you don't. So we've got to measure our results. I can't say that strongly enough. It is so incredibly important. What is it you're going to measure? Well, you're going to measure the number of leads that come in, the number of meetings that you create, and the number of sales that you create as a result of those meetings. Now, there may be underlying key performance indicators like the number of people visiting your website, the number of contacts you got on social media, the number of emails that you send out, and so on and so forth. So number four, become a better business owner. There's a guy called Keith J. What? Sorry, just need to look round. Keith J. Cunningham. Excuse me. He wrote a book called The Road Less Stupid, which is a brilliant book, by the way. I strongly recommend you go and buy that book. And in it, he says, if you want a better business, you have to become a better business owner. And I would add to that, if you want a better business or a bigger, more successful business, you've got to become better at marketing and selling what you do. The only way of getting more profit in your business is to reduce costs and increase sales. You want to reduce costs, you could do that immediately. You can only reduce it by so much. So if you really want to leverage your business, you've got to work on increasing sales. That's the end of the story, really. So, do that. Become a better business owner. Number five, model success. What do I mean by that? I don't mean copy somebody's website or their email or anything like that. I'm talking about what could you do to model what somebody else has already done. Let's say there's somebody in your industry that's hugely successful and you'd love to be as successful as that person. Let me give you an example. In my industry, which I loosely call the consultancy, coaching, advising industry, there's a guy you may have heard of called Tony Robbins. Now, Tony apparently turns over around about 7 billion a year. It's a little bit more than me. I'm sure he's got his own Aston Martin or whatever car he wants as a version of that, but, hugely successful guy. I just wonder, is there anything I could learn from Tony? I'd say an incredible amount. I can go and have a look at his website. I can sign up to his emails. I can listen to his videos. I can learn from him in probably 1,000 different ways. And that's so incredibly important. So go and have a look. And by the way, it doesn't have to be somebody in your industry. Do you think there's anything I could learn for my business from Apple? Nothing to do with what I do, but they're pretty good at stuff, aren't they? You'd have thought they're pretty good at branding. They're pretty good at marketing. If I listened to some Steve Jobs videos, I reckon I'd learn some stuff, don't you? So why don't you do it? And why aren't I doing it? Well, the news from my point of view is I am. He's certainly somebody that I listen to. Number five, embrace technology. Now, the old BS excuse, well, I'm not really very technical. That's doesn't wash anymore. You cannot use that as an excuse. Well, you can do whatever you want, but if you do, you're probably not going to grow your business anywhere near the level that you could. If you're not embracing AI, we are at the start. If this is the level of AI at the moment, and if I come back over here, this is where it was 3 years ago, and it's gone like that, and pretty soon it's going to go like that. In fact, it's probably going to go like that. Yeah, we are at the start of the wave. We really are. And if you don't embrace technology, you're almost certainly going to get left behind. Okay, number seven. You can't know everything. So you got to get a mentor. You got to get a coach. Can you name me any top football team, uh, sports team, tennis, uh, boxer, golf pro? They've all got coaches and mentors, all of them. Do you think Richard Branson, who's by comparison, a very, very successful business person, do you think he's learnt all this stuff himself, or do you think he's had coaches and mentors and advisors and consultants working for him? Do you think he still has those people? Absolutely, he does. So, particularly if you're a coach or a consultant and you don't have a coach or a consultant helping you, then, you're not really not believing in what you do. Unless you're obviously a marketing consultant, then you probably need a HR consultant or an IT consultant or an accountant or finance director. We all need help, let's face it. And lastly, point eight, the only way to increase profit, and I've already mentioned this, is to reduce costs and increase sales. So my last tip in this process, this success plan, is to go ahead and start reducing costs. What can you save? You can save something. You can save 5%. You can save 10%. I've got my lights on in here. You can probably see. Yeah, you can. There. Where are they? There, on the board there. Yeah, I've got my lights on. It's the middle of the day, Steve. What are you doing with your lights on? Well, I'm trying to make it a little bit brighter for people so that I don't come across as a dark and shady character here. But the truth is, I don't need those lights on, so I could turn them off. All right, it's not going to make that much difference to my financial success long term. But if there's enough versions of taking the lights off, i.e., getting rid of some software that I'm paying £10 a month for that I don't really need or use, adjusting this, tweaking that, you could probably save yourself somewhere between 10 and 20% of your costs. I'm hallucinating because I don't know that. But what I do know is that the sky is the limit in terms of your income. Now, again, it depends on what you want. I appreciate it if your business is about exchanging time for money, then there's only so much time you've got, and therefore there's only so much money. Yes, you could increase your hourly rate, but unless you're, Robbie Williams or something, you're not going to make a lot of money. He makes whatever he makes for doing a concert, and that's exchanging time for money. But if you're a coach or an advisor, yeah, you can. I was listening to a podcast by a marketing guy called Jay Abraham, who's currently charging $50,000 an hour to consult with him, which is, it's a little bit more than me. Let's put it that way. I say that very tongue in cheek, but you get the idea. So that's it. That's all I wanted to say. There are 8 things based on over 30 years I've been doing this. So, I know what I'm talking about. And believe me, I do. I've helped many businesses to make significant income in their business. And yeah, I'd love to do that for you. So if you'd like to talk to me, just go to my website, results-mastery.com, and get yourself booked in for a one-to-one Zoom meeting. We can talk about you, your business, what you want to try to achieve, maybe help you put a plan together, as I just mentioned, talk about how you're going to measure the success of your plan, and generally try and demonstrate my expertise by physically helping you on that call. And at the end of it, if you want any more help, great. And if you don't, that's not a problem. And that's it. So thanks ever so much for listening. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button both on YouTube and on my podcast. And I look forward to providing you with some more tried, tested, and proven ways in which you can grow your business. Thanks for listening. So, thank you for listening. And if you've enjoyed this podcast, and even more, if you've benefited from it and you'd like to know more, you'd like more of my help, and you'd like to benefit from my nearly 30 years of experience working with and learning from the leading experts in the world in the area of sales and marketing, then here's what you need to do next. You need to go to my website, which is results-mastery.com, and use the gold button to book yourself a meeting on a one-to-one basis with me. Thank you very much for listening again, and I look forward to speaking to you very, very soon. Thank you.